Welcome back to another episode of Thanks for the Consult. As always, I'm Fior, and we have with us Aaron.
What's up?
And today we have John Lucas. How are you, man?
I'm good. How you guys doing today?
Not too bad. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. You're in the fire department. You're in EMS, I believe. Yep, Haz-Mat, glowworm, if you will. You got your hands in a lot of stuff there. Tell us about that.
So I was fortunate enough when I moved, when I was 13, 14 years old, I moved from the borough of Crafton, where I was born and raised, to Bridgeville Borough, who had a junior fire program. I got involved in that, kind of a lifelong thing. My family's been involved in the fire and EMS business for as long as I can remember. I mean, it was well before I was born. Um, so it kind of came natural to join the fire department. Did that at the age of 14, right after my 14th birthday. So I've been doing that ever since. So we're going on 24 years now. And then I got an EMS in 2008. My EMT class was in 2008. Was a hell of a lot less expensive than it is now. But it was a fun time. I've made a lot of lifelong friends out of that class, and then it was one of those, like, I'm gonna do this for a while and see if I like it, and kind of fell in love with it. It's been a wild ride since. Just had my second field delivery 2 Fridays ago. So
Nice.
yeah, that was an interesting one. Nothing like a downpouring rainstorm. Because we live in Seattle. So downpouring rainstorm on the side of Interstate 79.
Yeah.
So it was a good time, but healthy baby boy. Very very fortunate on that.
There you
Um,
go.
but and then I kind of, right about, I would say, 2010, 2011, something like that. I met my best friend, who's my training partner, works for the City of Pittsburgh Fire Department on 32 engine, and we just met in hazmat tech class. As a buddy of mine was like, let's go take hazmat tech. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go take it with you. What's wrong? What's another 48 hours of class? Why not? And instantly fell in love with it. It was something I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. Like, you're messing with stuff that literally one breath could kill you.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, you know what, this is actually something I find interesting. And then, like I said, my buddy Darius and we became good friends in class. And then we just started randomly, let's go take these classes. And I have now 3 specialist titles in hazmat. So I get to do a lot of cool things, be a part of a lot of cool things. So it's definitely a wild ride. I mean, that area is more rewarding to me than anything other than, obviously the EMS side of it. But, the fire side, getting kind of, it's mundane. It's the same thing over and over again. You go to a fire, put water on the fire, put the fire out, go home.
Yeah.
Hazmat's a whole different animal, because there's so many uncertainties.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's
What's
something.
your favorite hazardous material?
Uh, I always get asked this, and everybody looks at me weird when I tell them I'm a radiation specialist. And everybody's like, "Oh, wow, that's kind of crazy. You get to go mess with all kinds of nuclear stuff." And it's not quite that level. It's more or less like the transportation stuff. Like, people don't realize that, like, a passenger car is what they deliver. So it's technetium 99 is the popular one that they use for nuclear testing in hospitals. So, like, when they go do the nuke test, or the radiological testing, or whatever you want to call it, however you want to look at it, the nuke med department, that gets delivered in a passenger car, and they could have like 100 vials of it in their car, and it doesn't have to have a placard on it. And people were like, "You're kidding me, right?" I'm like, "No, it's below the quantity limit that has to have a placard." So it's just like, to me, that really got me hooked, and kind of what really. I took one class, and then stupid us were like, let's go take the instructor version. Didn't realize we had to sit through the same class 3 months later. And I mean, I think all three of us can agree, we've taken classes you'd rather beat your head off the wall. Like
Oh yeah.
most PA train classes, where it's the same monotone instructor that talks for an hour.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I think
Imagine,
they're the original AI. They found out how to have the AI of the monotone voice. I couldn't imagine meeting a person that talked like that and being like, I want to record your voice for hours.
imagine that for 16 hours,
Yeah.
and do it for 2 days straight, and then repeat it again in 3 months. Like, I was like, why'd we do this to ourselves? And we laughed about it, and then now we can go
Yeah.
teach the class, so it kind of works out.
There you go. So you like doing the hazmat stuff there, that technetium 99. I think I might have uh encountered that when I was sick a few years ago. They brought something out in like a lead
Hmm.
box, and then I think they might have put it in my body. I don't know. They had me on so many painkillers. I know what my name was. And they did x-rays or MRIs, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. I might have had that in me. That's interesting.
It only lasts about maybe 5 minutes, so that's why they use it, because it's such a short half lifetime. So by the time you leave there, there's no
Yeah.
traces in your body anymore.
Oh, that's cool. I assume in larger quantities, it's probably fairly dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, that one particularly not as much. I mean, it's still dangerous because it's radioactive material, but that one you can, like I said, you could have 100 vials in your car and not have to worry about putting a placard on it, just like a Walmart truck. Walmart
Oh,
truck's the most dangerous truck on the planet.
yeah. I see. I disagree. I think it's a U-Haul truck.
Well,
You,
yeah, that too.
you
You
take
can't rent a car till
Some,
you're like 25, 26, but
you
then
can
like
rent
you
a
can just
U-Haul at
go drive a
18.
U-Haul at 18. Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
for cheaper.
Bigger. Yeah. Way fewer maintenance standards, I'm sure. I think we should do that. We should get just see the biggest U-Haul we can get, find the newest driver we can, just see how it goes.
Something tells me that would actually be a great training tool, just because, I mean, think about it. I mean, these kids are coming out of class like 18, 19 years old. Some of them a little bit, right at the cusp of like being able to drive, or like 21, they never seen an ambulance before except for their precepting time. And you're like, hey, you got to go drive this $200,000 ambulance around. Don't wreck
Yeah.
it.
Yep. And then add in the adrenaline rush of the first time they get to turn on the lights and sirens and
Yeah,
uh
that's chaotic.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
I've
fun to watch from the passenger seat, though.
sometimes not. I don't know. I've taken some wild rides to the hospital. I'm like, we don't need to get there that quickly. But so yeah, you were saying earlier EMT class was a lot less. Man, I remember my EMT class was I think $55.
I think
And
mine was 125 plus
yeah,
book.
Mine was
and
300.
then yeah. And when I went to my medic in '07, it was $800, 850, I think, if you wanted the uniform, the clinical uniform in the book too. And then in 21, it was $8,500 or something.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
It's truly amazing how much cost has gone up. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it was $66,995, so $7,000 to take the centers program a couple years ago. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is nuts. Like I remember when CCAC ran it for $800,
Yep.
something like that,
It's
and now they're
crazy.
even up too. They're like
Yeah.
$5,000 or something now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Used to be you'd only go to the center for the degree program because it didn't make sense to go for just your medic because it was so much more expensive than everybody else. And then it looked like everybody else took a break from offering it, and then now they're back and they're just as much. So,
Right. Penn State's program, just for the paramedic program, something like $12,000.
good Lord. Yeah. Aaron, you went Penn State for EMT, right?
No, I went to IUP.
Your
We
undergrad
worked
from
with
Penn
them.
State?
We worked with them whenever I was an instructor or satellite spot.
Okay. Is that where your undergrad's from, is Penn State?
Yeah.
All right. I knew you had some affiliation there. Right on. Sorry, I get derailed easily. Yeah, so you're the first hazmat guy that we've talked to, at least knowingly. I mean, there might have been a closeted hazmat person that wasn't comfortable telling us about it. So definitely an interesting thing. I imagine all of your hazmat call outs are usually it's like, well, who knows what we're getting into. So you probably have to have a pretty decent sized team, especially if there's specialties within specialties.
It's basically, I think the best comparison would be kind of like the emergency room. So you have obviously your doctors, your command position,
Mhm.
and then underneath them, the residents would be your kind of like sector leaders,
Mhm.
and then nurses would be your kind of like my role, like the specialist role.
Uh-huh.
And then the ER techs would either be, the grunts getting everything together, or, a part of the cleanup afterwards. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of, not necessarily, I wouldn't say like they're the custodians, because really they hire a cleanup company to come in once you mitigate the problem. Then it's on, if it's a transportation accident, it's on that company to hire some specialist crew to come in and clean it up. So those are the
Yeah.
janitors, basically, or
Yeah.
the whatever they consider those employees. Now, I can't call them a janitor. I don't want to, hurt
Yeah.
anybody's feelings, there. But
Uh, I can't keep up with what we're supposed to call people.
but basically it's like the custodians are like the cleanup company.
Yeah.
So if you look at a functioning ER,
Yeah.
it's kind of that way, where you have the coach, and then the assistant leaders type thing, and then your boots on the ground.
Yeah. Right on. Um, that's interesting. What's the longest kind of hazmat call out you've been on? Because I've
Was
seen
that
some of those things last days. What's the longest hazmat call out you've had?
actually the longest one was when I was working on the ambulance,
Okay.
back when Bayer Corporation, which is now Covestro or whatever the hell it's called now, but out in Robinson, they had a building, no kidding, that's the size of a standard single car garage, but
Okay.
it's designed and built to withstand a vessel inside there exploding. Like, and you'll
Okay.
never know it blew up. It's the weirdest building ever. It sits out all by itself in like the middle of a parking lot.
That's how you know
Um,
it's dangerous.
right? But they have like, literally it looks like propane cylinders, but there are various different gases and chemicals and things like that packed in these containers. And they had one that had a leak in the top of it. And we were there for, it came in as, it sounded dumb. Like, you're just like, when you're riding the ambulance and you see this like E3 call pop up, you're like, with the fire department, you're like, yeah, we're going to monitor. And you read the call details. You're like, we probably should go to that.
Yeah.
So we took a ride over, and we were there for, I want to say we were there for like 7 or 8 hours. Most of the hazmat call outs, a lot of them anymore, especially the way the county seems to work, it's like you'll get like the commander will call you on the phone and talk to you and see if it's worth a full team call out, or if it's only worth like, hey, we're going to send a couple guys out to help you out. They'll do
Yeah.
things that way, more so than like the hazmat cleanup companies. They'll be there for days. The actual
Okay.
hazmat incident itself might be over for like the fire department at the county level in a matter of hours, but then it's
Okay.
on to the mitigation cleanup, like the tanker rollover on 28 a couple weeks ago, or well, a couple
Yeah.
months ago now.
Yeah.
That one, once they controlled the hazard and the hazmat team did what they needed to do, it was on the cleanup companies. They were just there to make sure they didn't basically die or cause an issue where they had to step in. So it basically comes back on, it falls on them. Really, durations of hazmat incidents are only a couple of hours in the grand scheme
Uh,
of things, where it lasts, maybe, you have an incident that lasts 24 hours. Our purpose is only about that much. We're Once we mitigate the situation and deem it safe necessarily for the public, it's now not our responsibility. It's on that shipper or receiver. Uh-oh.
okay. Makes sense. Oh, we got a question.
I have a story.
Okay.
Can
I
can I
like
can I
stories.
can I tell it?
I wish that you would.
Oh, okay, cool. So my dad just retired, and he worked for a chemical plant. Um, and there was a chemical plant underneath the same company, somewhere in the Middle East, and they were shipping in hydrochloric acid. And hydrochloric acid, the way you ship it is it's concentrated inside of like a big truck, so it's actually has a liquid in there. But as soon as it's exposed to room air pressure, it turns into a gas. And hydrochloric acid is like one of the strongest acids, it's super dangerous, right? So I forget exactly what happened, but basically, like one of the trucks just started leaking mass amounts of hydrochloric acid. Where this was where this was at was directly across a body of water from two countries who I would say, for lack of better words, don't get along very well. And there
Not
was major
BFFs.
cities on either side of that body of water. And if the wind had been blowing the wrong way that day, it
Uh-huh.
would have like caused an international incident because they would have like killed thousands of people.
Are you saying that his company potentially could have started World War III?
What I'm saying is that I had a cool hazmat story for you, and that's what I just told you.
No, they wouldn't have caused World War III. They'd have caused World War IV because I think Trump was already trying to start that.
In retrospect, I don't know if that's a story I was allowed to tell. Oh well.
Eh.
For legal purposes.
He's retired now. What are they gonna do? Fire him? He didn't sign an NDA.
But you know what the best part is when that incident in Robinson was cleaned up, do you know how they transported it?
Uh-huh.
They packed the top of it in concrete and put it in a UPS truck and sent it back to the shipper.
Return to sender.
Right?
Your hazardous materials caused an issue. Here's some concrete.
But that was mind blowing to me when they were like, "Yeah, we're just going to encase the top of it in concrete." Like we went to Home Depot, got some Quickcrete, came back, whipped it up, and like went in there, laid the top of it, and I'm like, "Okay." And then the FedEx truck or UPS truck, whatever it was, pulled up and they loaded it in there, and he drove off. I'm like, "Did that really just happen? Like they just put that in the back of like a parcel transport truck
That's
and they
amazing.
left?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You know what? I don't even want to know. I'm good."
Imagine the guy getting it to the end delivery, trying to carry that thing to the door.
Right. It exceeded the 75-pound max limit.
Yeah, but they have
So
it
if a
in
nuclear
concrete.
power plant has a meltdown, is that on you?
It would
I think it's on
depend if
all
it
of us. We're just
yeah.
dead.
What
Yeah,
well, I
like
mean
you
there
gotta go.
might
You gotta deal with that, John.
I mean we would with all the and basically that's just going to be it'll be a lot of dark SUVs would pull up with some tinted windows, and a lot of guys would get out with interesting toys, and they would tell you what to do, and you just say yes, sir, because they're gonna do things their way, and you're gonna like it or not. But it would, I mean, it falls on pretty much all of us. We're all within that certain range of a nuclear power plant. 25-mile EPZ, as it's known. We all fall in somewhere within it, 25, 50-mile ranges. So everybody would play a part in it, whether they wanted to or not. That would be one of those days where you're like, I think I'm going to go home. I have suddenly diarrhea. I need to leave. But it would be something that we would play a big role in, and it's mainly more or less air monitoring, because you're not going to get close enough. They're going to have that area so locked down that a bird flies in, they're going to know. Um, but yeah,
So,
there would
so
be a
you're like
lot
the
of air
fire
monitoring.
department on carbon monoxide calls where you just got your meter over there and you're like, yep, it's bad.
Pretty much, it's just a little bit cooler meters, a little bit more of a price tag to some of those meters. Some of them get in the range of like $250,000, $300,000, and yeah, even literally, I mean, I'm using my iPad right now, so imagine an iPad, but a lot thicker, and you could point it at something and it tells you exactly what it is, and you're like, okay, that's cool, but that's $200,000
It's an
for all that
expensive.
sophisticated technology.
It's an expensive iPad. Good Lord.
Yes, it's some of the stuff we mess with is extremely expensive. That's why I like going to training classes because especially with the government, because when you break it, it's like, well, I mean, my tax dollars are going to pay for a new one, but it's away from here.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Um, yeah, I've never once had any interest in doing hazmat. I don't know. Like I view the hazmat refresher I have to do every year as a pain in my ass. I
The
give it
refresher I
to
hate.
yeah. I don't know. There's just something about something that can kill me and I can't see it that seems unnatural.
Right.
Like fight me. I want to see you. But you're just gonna be all lethal and invisible. That's bullshit. So
You turn into the Incredible Hulk, though.
I could, but like, you see more about like parts falling off than like getting superpowers. It seems,
Yeah,
I'm starting to think that those comic books are not real. So I have some suspicions. We'll do some further tests.
there you go. I like it. I'm in for this. I'm in
Yeah.
for it.
So you currently work as an EMT, is that correct? Okay. Um what you're in the west or south?
Southwest, kind of, I
Southwest.
guess you could say.
Okay. Yeah, that's a whole different animal to me. The south uh hills is I don't know. It's different out there, man.
It,
I've
it's
done
like
north,
every
I've done
place.
east, but the south is, I don't know.
Hey, you know, it's funny when I was working with like Norm and all those guys up in McCandless.
Yeah.
Once you cross the river, it's like it's a different beast, and it's the same when you go to the east. When you cross the river, it's like, and then
Uh,
you got to go through a tunnel, which makes it even worse. You got to
yeah.
cross the river, then go through a tunnel, and it's like, boy, what did I just get myself into out here?
Yeah. Well, we were talking last week to Anisha about the East Zone, and she came from the North where everything's prim and proper on the radio, and you got to the East Zone, it's the Wild West.
Right?
You know, the West Zone, there's only like two or three people on there. You know, most of it's one or two services that have internal dispatch, so you don't hear a lot of radio chatter out there.
Right.
What's the South like?
So I don't even know if there's, so we're, where I'm at Southbridge, we're dispatched on the West Zone or on the West EMS channel. So we share
Oh,
it
okay.
with what, Northwest, who has their own internal dispatch,
Yeah,
who just gets on the radio and says, this is the truck that's going to go to that call.
that's the
And then,
last you hear from them.
yeah, you'll hear a lot of them. So one of the things that's kind of annoying is, you know, we all have the ability to use an MDT in the truck. I love using an MDT. Hey, I acknowledge for my truck, and
Mhm.
then I don't really need to talk to you again unless I need help or I need something.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm all for it. Like I was taught very very early, like this is our friend. Use it to your advantage. So
yeah,
I do. A lot of places, it seems like in the West, you would rather key up the radio and talk on the radio and you know do whatever. And it also comes back on policies. I mean, there's a lot of services that have policies that hey, we you can click if you want, but you still got to call on the radio.
yeah,
Whether it's for them to be able to hear because they might not be at the you know at a desk that can see an MDT or something. So I can understand the rationale behind it, but the South Zone is very when you listen to it, it sounds very paramilitary. Just because I
okay.
mean you have Mertz and you have Baldwin, who are very very well structured organizations. Um, so there's not a lot of the East Zone chatter that you know like you know banner back and forth between services or the dispatcher. You know, depending upon the dispatcher, you know you don't
Yeah,
want to necessarily make some of them mad. You know, we have a couple of them that'll come back and get you.
oh yeah,
But I mean, it's definitely not when you compare them. I would say we're right there in the middle of the pack. Like the North Zone, yes, it's prim and proper. You know, we hear a lot of banner back and forth until it's late at night when obviously all the managers go home for the night and you can have some fun. Um, but yeah, it would be to me below kind of like below the North Zone when you listen to
okay,
the West Channel, and then the South Zone is like they set the bar up here, and we're all just trying to get there because I mean they're not on there causing chaos like the rest of us. You know,
uh,
they're actually
yeah,
functional and you know sound like a well built organization, whereas the rest of us were just like you know whatever, just send it.
yeah. I can tell you the East Zone's not in that competition. They do not care. They just, I
It's
think,
been a while since I've heard the East Zone, so it's been a
it's,
minute.
I somehow found this TikTok channel that plays recordings from the Monroeville Valley area,
Oh, that's
and
got to
they
be gold.
it is like the dispatchers yelling at the the part. How about you don't take that attitude with me?
There's one East Zone dispatcher that she dispatched me a bunch of times, and when I you know back in the day when I used to work at Woodland Hills, you know
Okay,
many years ago, and she was a dispatcher back then, and you know you always knew when she was on the fire channel because somebody well at least there was two or three working fires that day. It was just set the tone. But when she was on EMS channel, man, you did not get an attitude because she would just you wouldn't see your station for days.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's wild out there, man. It is absolutely wild out there. I spent some time out there, and it is absolutely insane. But you know, it's a good time. So I didn't realize Southbridge was in the West Zone, but
Yeah.
okay,
It's located in I mean it's in the Bridgeville South Fayette area, so it's south, but
okay,
kind of but more the way the lines are drawn in the county, it falls on the west channels.
okay. Yeah, I spend as little time as possible in the West Zone. Get pulled there every once in a while though. Right on. What made you decide to go get your EMT? You were doing the fire thing. What made you decide I'm going to try this out?
So I was more or less kind of like, what do I want to do? I went and did the dispatch thing for 2 years.
Okay.
And that was back when, obviously, that was many, many years ago. Obviously, so it was still on Lexington Avenue, and it was two different beasts. It was the city beast and the county beast, and it was two different CAD systems, same room. But me sitting from me to my recliner across the living room here away from me, I couldn't talk to that person via the computer system.
Yeah.
So like it was weird. I was in the city zone, so we were obviously crushed 24/7 just because it's, Pittsburgh, so it's nonstop busyness. But it was more or less like, okay, do I really want to sit in an office for all this time? Do I really want to, you know, go to work for 8 hours, not know if I'm going to be there for 8 hours, 12 hours, or 16 hours, especially
Yeah.
if it wasn't going into your past days where they could mandate you. So, my first day full time, I was mandated. Um, it was like,
Welcome
I,
aboard.
right. I heard the phone ring and I'm like, shit, I'm getting mandated here. And supervisor sent out a message saying anybody looking for overtime, did the call list, nobody wanted it, walked up to me and said, well, welcome to your first day of full time. You're mandated for the whole 8 hours. I was like, great. See you. And, he's like, you could go take a little bit longer of a lunch today. I'm like, oh, thanks. My reward for getting mandated. Um, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the EMT class just as something. The fire department was talking about getting into the QRS business, so it was like, hey, I could be more of a benefit to my community by doing this.
Yeah.
And then I started doing like that was back before you had to do truck time in EMS, so or
Okay.
for EMT class. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get some ride-alongs in with Northwest. And actually, how many of us? Dylan, Becky, Julie, myself, there was at least four of us that all went to work for Northwest straight out of class.
Okay.
And of course, that was back in the day where EMS paid absolutely no money. It was, I think I made like 850 an hour, which was still leaps and bounds above minimum wage at that point. But I was like, you know what, this probably isn't the best for me. So I was working as many services that would hire you as possible because back then that was like the cool thing to do was work everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then I got out of it, went back to I was doing private security for a long time before that. I got an offer to go work as a supervisor and make substantially more money. I was making in the teens. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be rich.
Right.
But of course, that was pre-COVID. So when you made $15 an hour, you were actually able to afford life.
Yeah.
You were able to afford a tank of gas. Afford to put groceries on your table and pay rent and still have a paycheck left over.
Yeah.
So I went did private security again for a while and then came back in EMS, and actually the pay rates had gone up a lot, substantially, I should say. It went from most places paying $8 to $10 an hour to people paying 12 to 15 an hour. So I got back into it, and then I haven't looked back since. I've been doing it for nonstop now for the better part of 10 years.
Okay. Right on. Yeah.
Fate,
It's no, go ahead.
one of the North Zone. I don't want to say relics because he's not like he's not old, but one of the famous North Zone folks, Keith Jankowski, got me back into EMS again
Yeah.
when he took over as chief of Northwest
Okay.
years ago. He called me. I was at my buddy's wedding. He's like, "Hey, I just accepted a job at Northwest as the chief. You want to get back into this again?" I'm like, let me think about it. I was like, this is probably not the best time to have a conversation with me. I mean, we've only been drinking since 9 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's talk about this later on. And I thought about it for probably a week or so. I was like, do I really want to go back to this? I was kind of enjoying the non-chaotic life, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. And I was like, you know what? Let's go back. And I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, it's definitely one of those jobs where, you have to have a passion for it. You have to have a desire, or else it's certainly not for everyone. But I think that, you know, I personally think it's one of the best jobs in the world. Um, for many reasons. But yeah, if you don't enjoy it, I mean, there's no amount of money that's going to make up for hating your life every single day. Right?
That's not true.
Right.
That's not true.
No.
There's certainly an amount of money that makes up for hating your life every day.
What is that amount?
$20 for me.
Oh, right on. I've got $20 with your name on it, and I'm going to torture you.
I look forward to it.
Huh?
I look forward to it.
Excellent. It's what, 90 degrees out today? My black truck needs washed. Get on it.
Only if you play sexy music while I do it.
Nope. Giving you $20.
You know what? I got a black car too.
Yeah,
I'll give you
right?
another $20.
That's $40 in one day. That's
I'm
double
hustling.
the amount.
I'm hustling.
There you go. You'll
That's
pay
more
for
than I
med
made in
school in
EMS in
no
a
time.
week.
Oh, please.
Anymore? Yeah. I mean, back back growing up, yeah, I would say I agree with you on that one. That would be
Yeah.
more than you make in half a day.
Yeah. Nowadays the wages aren't through the roof by any means, but they're certainly better.
Yeah,
And
they're making strides.
there's certainly services out there that I'm like, I don't know how you hire anybody at these wages, but you know, there's other places that obviously pay very well. So but yeah, it's kind of EMS has been the slowest to kind of catch up with the times as far as wages are concerned. It was it was the cops and the firemen. Now they're coming around to the redheaded stepchildren that is the EMS.
Right. Right.
getting us up into livable wages again. So but it truly has created an environment where you have to really enjoy what you're doing, or at least have proper motivation, or else you're not going to last. Which isn't in itself awful, but the being able to live off your paycheck's nice too.
Right. Right. Yeah, being able to not have to worry about taking a second mortgage on your house to go grocery shopping for a family of four is kind of nice.
I
Yeah,
always
I
find it
hear you.
interesting how people defend like the low wages by saying about all the parts about EMS that are good. It's like, oh, well, you can sleep at the station. It's like, yeah, I mean, every job has things that are nice. It doesn't mean you should still get paid like garbage.
Right.
Right.
Firefighters
There's
sleep at the station, and I would argue a lot of cops do too.
I know some that do, or
Yeah, and
not
I
at
think
their
we all know a few.
station, but they have their hiding spots. They have
Yeah.
their hiding spots, but
Some of them are right out in plain view too, and that's the best part. And just nobody pays attention.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'd venture to say there's a lot of managers that sleep on the job. Maybe not physically, but good luck finding what they're doing, huh?
I think we all know a few that have definitely fit that role too.
Right. But
Let's name them.
well, maybe not.
Yeah, let's not do that one. I mean,
Yeah.
my manager now I see more times in a day than I've seen other managers in a week.
Yeah, yeah. I just assume that my managers are all working, but I work remote compared to most. Like I'm the only one at my base, so it's besides whoever I'm relieving and then whoever relieves me. But I talk to them and they're always available when I need them. But that's the interesting part. Like we don't have a main station where everybody hangs out. We're all spread out in our different areas, and so you don't really see people. But 4 times a year, we have quarterly trainings, which is interesting. Get to see people. I'm like, hey, who's that? Like, oh, they've worked here for 15 years. Oh, how about that? That's our most tenured employee. How about that? Never seen them before.
Everybody, when you walk into the meeting, they hand you your name tag that you got to put on, so this way
Right.
everybody can see who you are.
That might be why they have us wear uniforms. I never thought about it that way.
It could be. It could be.
So they know who we are. This makes sense. I like it. Smart. See, they're out there doing smart things, making big moves, big brain moves there. So, um, anyway, so your aspirations to stay in EMS, move to something else? What are you trying to do with your career here? Or you
It's hard
like you don't know what you want to do when you grow up?
I don't ever want to grow up. I think that's the goal. I'm going to get old. I don't want to grow up.
Fair.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we're guys, so I mean, come on now. What you ask anybody, any of the wives, friends, fiancés, whatever, we're never going to grow up. We're always going to be children. It's like when we go out in public, it's like they look at us and give the kids get the speech, we get the speech.
Yeah.
We get our own little speech. And but no, I think uh, part of me wants to stay in this as long as I can. The other
Yeah.
part of me is like, let's start thinking about the future. Start thinking about when your body tells you you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, that's coming. It's coming for me. It's coming for all of us. And I
Oh
hate
yeah.
saying that because there's a lot of great people out there, but there's a lot of great people that aren't 21 years old, fresh out of school, doing this job. We've all been doing this a long time. And it's eventually gonna come back and get us. So I mean, it's kind of why I've been taking a lot of my classes that I've been taking on the hazmat side, because there's always going to be a business for that,
Yeah.
and getting into either contract work or consulting or something like that.
Okay.
The pay's there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would triple my pay rate tomorrow getting into that rather than being an EMS, but I still like what I do. I still like
Yeah.
getting up when it's, work days, getting up going, I got to go to work today, not rolling out of bed going, damn it, I got to go to work. No, I actually get out of bed, like, ready to go, get to work. And it's like, all right, let's do our thing and hang out and wait for the first call to come in.
Yeah. It's definitely the sense of community is pretty awesome. And getting to actually engage with your community that you're working in too is well, something I enjoy. I know some people it's not a huge appeal, but I like getting out in the community, meeting people, you know.
We're fortunate. We get to do that quite often. We do a
Yeah.
lot of standby details, a lot of standby events. So you're out there once, maybe twice a week, even.
Oh,
Especially this time of year. There's always something going on.
yeah.
So even a church festival, we may not have to go to it, but you know what? They got some good food because it's the homemade food. I'm like, I'm gonna go there and get me something to eat
Yeah.
for lunch or dinner or whatever. So people see that and they're like, oh wow, they're not just these big scary people that show up in an ambulance and take you away to the hospital.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
actually people. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron, you weren't you recently at the bodybuilder competition or something for
I mean,
work?
not for EMS. It was just happening up the street.
Fair enough.
I hate community events. They can stay
You
away.
hate them.
They
Why?
can stay away. And all
Where
it
else
does
you
is
get?
they take up my time, and then I gotta go
Yeah,
out there
where
and be
else you
like,
getting funnel cakes?
"That's true." If I got funnel cakes for free, I'd love community events,
See,
but I
Man,
have to
I'm more
pay
of the
for
fried
them.
Oreo fan.
They smack.
Fried
fried.
Oreo is where it's at.
Any rebuttal there, Aaron?
Oh, I said they smack. I like
Ah.
fried Oreos.
Yeah.
That's like the only reason besides potato patch fries to go to Kennywood.
Well, I heard that they can't call them that anymore because they got bought out. So they got rid of all the
Oh,
names
well
of
then
all the
Kennywood's not fun
restaurants.
anymore.
That's, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's still, I mean, how could you mess up fries smothered in cheese? But,
Have you been to any fast food restaurant ever?
sometimes. What? No, it's saying it's still the potato patch. I don't know. Somebody lied to me.
Wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out who told me this false narrative. Huh.
Look at you
Over
just
20
actively
million
spreading
potatoes.
misinformation.
I'm not. I'm rectifying it. I'm rectifying the
Doesn't
information.
matter. You already spread it.
Well, if you look here, 20 million potatoes. That's a legacy, fellas. 20 million potatoes. Yeah, it
That's a lot of
says it's.
potatoes.
Yeah, I guess it's. Yeah,
I guess they were created after the Great Irish Potato Famine,
perhaps.
or
Although
maybe they were the cause.
Yeah,
it's another
plausible.
alternative. I don't think Kennywood's been around that long.
You don't know that.
I don't.
If you've been on some of those roller coasters, they might have been around that long.
Yeah, that's facts. That's 100% true.
1899? No.
If it's on the internet, it's true. Or better yet, if it's on Facebook, it's true.
May 30th, 1899. That's crazy.
When was the Great Irish Potato Famine?
Ooh, 1845. So luckily, Kennywood has not been the cause of the potato famine.
Close one.
Yeah, that's close.
Dodged a bullet.
But it's a lot closer than I would have thought.
Right. I was thinking 1920, somewhere in there, but
I was thinking the 60s. That's what I was thinking. Obviously, I'm wrong, but I was thinking like way later.
You guys need to work on your amusement park trivia.
Apparently.
I'd fail at this game. Hardcore.
Yeah, I wouldn't do well either, I don't think.
Where I'm from, there are two small amusement parks that are like when I say small, I mean like 20th of the size of like a Hershey or a Kennywood or something, like so small comparatively. And I just I grew up, they're like 10 miles from each other. And I just grew up and I figured that everybody had small amusement parks like that. I've quickly found out that that's actually not the case. Nobody has those. Like one is a Italian family who makes spaghetti sauce. And then they just
has a roller
and
coaster?
has an amusement park. Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh. That's nuts.
Grossens, shout out.
There you go.
I've actually been by that amusement park before.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
I'm gonna ask them to sponsor us, but I don't think now with your glowing review.
No, I worked there for years and I don't like them, so we're not accepting their sponsorship.
Huh. Fair. So whenever you went to a larger amusement park, were you just like dumbfounded at the size?
No, I mean I'd gone as a child. I just assumed that everybody had little ones, and then every once in a while you go to a place where there was a big one. I didn't realize that people didn't just have little amusement parks nearby.
Oh, so you viewed them as like bonus amusement parks.
Basically. Yeah, it's just like you just have them. They're just around.
I mean, we have like the fairs, like the community days or like firemen's carnivals but nothing.
There's like several 100-foot water slides there and a wave pool.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
That beats Duquesne Disney.
Duquesne Disney.
Dude, so funny story about Kennywood actually is Kennywood has this ride there that's like an indoor roller coaster. I forget what it's called. I don't know if either of you guys know the name of it. But
Terminator.
Is that what it is? It's got those little like clown looking cars, right? And it's like 4 people. I didn't know what it looked like, right? Because it's inside. And we waited in a line for this when I was a kid for like an hour. And we finally get inside. And it's all dark inside that ride. You can't see anything. Well, we start going up and we saw the cars and we were like, the amusement park down the road from us has one roller coaster. And it looked exactly like the cars on that roller coaster. And I was like, that's weird. Isn't that funny? We start going up and I was like 10 with a friend and her dad was with us. And so he starts calling out the turns. He's like, turn left, boom, turned left. 180, turned 180. Like he was just calling out all the turns and stuff. We waited an hour in line for a ride that we usually wait 2 minutes at a place much closer to us. It was really disappointing.
That's crazy. So
it's the exact same roller coaster.
Like a replica, or like that one shut down and they bought it and put it indoors?
No, it's the same. It's like the same one. Like the one that the local one has is right there still to this day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so manufacturers, like you buy a roller coaster from somebody who manufactures them. So if you go to other amusement parks, some people like the huge ones, like I don't think they make multiple of the very large ones, but like smaller amusement park rides, there's replicas of those all over.
I always thought that the roller coasters themselves were unique because they had to basically engineer them into the available space.
Right.
I think like the bigger ones, like he was saying, like the bigger ones, like the steel curtain, you won't find that anywhere else. Like the steel phantom, you won't find anywhere else.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. Now, I mean,
it is technically categorized as a mini roller coaster. So
what categorizes it? Like, how do you go from like mini to like regular?
It's smaller.
No shit.
Probably the number of cars. I'd imagine like a single car would be like considered a mini. If you get like 2 or 3 cars on there, it'd be considered an actual roller coaster.
See, that's an answer.
I
gave you an appropriate answer to that question.
I mean, in fairness, he did.
I don't know. That's some bullshit.
Objectively, it was smaller.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Yeah. Wow. Anyways, John, Back to you. Let me ask you, when you went to EMT class in '08, I believe you said. If I'm
Mhm.
wrong, I'm sorry. Do you still talk to any of the folks you went to class with?
Actually, still I work with one.
Oh, nice.
She's now paramedic.
Okay.
But for the most part, when I was working in North Burroughs, uh, one of them went to work at Ross.
Okay.
So I saw him on the regular. Um, and so, I mean, the rest of us have either gone our separate ways, got out of EMS, found something cooler or better. So we thought was cooler or better. Um, but for the vast majority of my class, there's only maybe four of us, five of us left in EMS.
Wow. Okay. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer.
I mean, it just goes to show, like I was saying before, about the center being like you go for, you're guaranteed to get those people on the truck for 3 or 4 years and then PA school, so it's kind of,
Yeah.
to me, it's always going to be a stepping stone job. I mean, you get the folks that get into it, love it, and they're like, we're never going to leave this, and then they stay. That's
Yeah.
what, 1-2% of the entire population of EMS, where we're like, we're in this for the long haul, and then
Yeah.
the rest of them are just like, yeah, I'm going to go to like nursing school, or I'm going to go to PA school, or I'm going to go do something else and get out of the field together. I mean, they might stay medical, but they're not, going into some of these amazing homes and in neighborhoods where you're like, was that a cockroach, or was that, dust bunny? What was that just went across the floor?
Yeah, the uh the cockroaches, those are not my favorite.
Mm-mm. Nah, I'm
Yeah.
good. Pass.
It's crazy the stuff that we're willing to put up with, and then the things that, like, that's the limit, right? So like certain people, it's, vomit or someone poop and whatever. I think Dalton was telling us he can't handle the smell of poop. Is that right? I think it was Dalton. And then somebody else told us about lung butter. It's like they could see all the blood, all the gore in the world, but somebody craps their pants and they're vomiting on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't know. The amount of stuff we see, and it's like, a cockroach. But I think universally it's a bed bug. Everybody sees a bed bug and they freaks them out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, necrotic tissue smell for me. That kind of that, that one, like, it sticks with you. That's the problem. Like, the smell of poo or whatever. You're like, all right, whatever. It's gone. It's over with. It's out of our truck. We let our truck air out. That smell, for some reason, like, sticks to you, and you're just like, you move the wrong way, and like a gust of wind comes by, and you're like, I smell it again. Like,
Yeah.
and you're just like, instantly your stomach turns. You're like, I was hungry. Now I'm not.
Right. Yeah. I think that it gets stuck in like your nose hairs. I don't know.
And
That's best I can come up with.
but you look at us, and like, when we talk about the whole not being able to handle certain things, we always make the joke when we're talking about like a cardiac arrest.
Uh-huh.
One of the most stressful calls I think we go to, and it's like, we're sitting there pumping on, grandma's chest or whatever, and like, all right, where are we going for lunch after this? And meanwhile, like, there's vomit just flying out of the ET tube, just like, all right, where are we doing lunch after this? After we take grandma to the hospital, or once we get cleaned up, where's lunch? And we all make the joke, but it's like, we're doing this, and it's like, yeah, somebody just like, they poop their pants, and it's like, like Dalton, he's on the side of the road throwing up, and we're sitting there going, all right, where's lunch? It's just like, it's weird,
Yeah.
how our minds process it. Then we're sitting at home, and like, the smallest thing might get us, and you're like, what? Like, I look at somebody with like a missing limb or spewing blood everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's like, no problem.
Yeah. Well, so I feel bad for my daughter because, growing up, she's like, every kid, like, when they get hurt, their parents make a big deal out of it. I'm like, you're fine. I've seen worse. You'll be fine. So she never got the whole, like, oh, poor baby. Let me take you to the doctor. I'm like, you're fine. Rub some dirt in it. You're good.
See, that was how I grew up. My mom was an LPN for years, and then she was an EMT for years, at the volunteer fire department and everything. So it was like, I come home, I had to go get stitches, and I thought I was going to get beat up because I had to go get stitches. I was like, I'm sorry, I was playing in the woods and fell, and growing up in my neighborhood, there was slate in the woods, and fell and literally razor bladed my leg on a piece of slate, and it was like walk home and like blood's just pouring down my leg and into my sock, and I'm like I got hurt, and they're like we're gonna clean it up, and they looked they're like you need stitches, and I was like I'm gonna get grounded for this because I got to go get stitches.
My parents never believed me when I was hurt. They don't have any medical experience. They just didn't believe me. And then I'd be like, take me to the doctor, and they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, please. And then they'd be like, oh. And then I'd be like, pretty please. And then they'd be like, all right. And then it would turn out I had something broken. They'd be like, ah, guess we should have taken you, huh? And I'd be like, yeah, glad you did.
Was this like the boy that cried wolves though? Like where you were like always like, my arm hurts.
Yeah,
Take
but
me to
I
the
was
doctor.
always actually hurt. That was the thing. It's like the amount of times that I was like, ouch, I'm hurt. Like you'd be like, oh, he can't be hurt this much, but I was in fact hurt that much.
It's probably because you kept getting hurt, and every time they took you to the hospital or the doctor, they probably got the third degree. Like, are you beating your child? Like, why is he?
My dad
He's
said
always
my
got a
dad
lot of
said he's
broken
never met his
bones.
he's never met his deductible since I got off of his insurance. Every year before that, he met his deductible every year.
That's a flex right there.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
They just changed our insurance that we use, and we met our deductible real quick. I'm like, I can't tell if they're screwing us or if I'm just getting older, and that's the problem. I think it might be a little bit of both, but they just stopped covering certain things. We're like, yeah, we might switch to my insurance next year.
Yeah, yeah. The insurance companies suck anymore. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's no nice way to put it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about the health plans, but I'll tell you, I don't remember it being this bad. Like when I first got insurance, it was like you had the magic card. You just went and got your free medicine,
Hmm.
right? Like you go to the doctor, it was $20. You go to the ER, it was like $30 or something. And it felt like nobody abused it either, even early on in my career. Like I don't remember this, oh, well, I'm going to take the ambulance to the hospital because I'll get seen faster nonsense. Like that's a fairly recent, say the last 10 years thing. Like early on, you didn't call an ambulance unless somebody was dying. You
Well, I think
didn't
that's
go to
probably
the
because
ER.
you got in the hospital, regardless of how you got there, you got seen right away.
No, because
No.
I can remember taking people still to
Yeah.
the waiting room
Yeah.
even early on. If they didn't have the Northwest obviously went to Ohio Valley a lot, which rest in peace no longer exists. But um, they used to go there all the time, and I mean that ER was only I think 10 beds at most. And if you went in there with like knee pain 'cause you fell, and their ER say had 8 or 9 people in it, you put them in a wheelchair in the waiting room. I mean, it was still, but they were, but to your point though, they were still seen within half hour, 40 minutes. I
Yeah.
mean, I took one to the hospital yesterday. And I think there was a wait time of like 7 hours.
Yeah. I can't tell if that's personally. So I can tell you when I worked in one area, it seemed that a lot of it was due to like this, like people just refused to get a PCP. The ambulance and the ER was their PCP.
Hmm.
My tooth hurts, call the ambulance or call the dentist. You know, like and it's, I can say it's not due to lack of education because we have tried to educate these people with like, hey, just so you know, the card that you always give them at the ER, so they know who to send the bill to, on the back of it, there's a number. They'll tell you where you can go to get these things taken care of so you don't have to go to the ER. They just don't care. They would
Nope.
just, it's easier, I guess, to just go to the ER, call the ambulance. And I worked in a community that it was, the ambulance was tax funded. So they just assumed the whole, I pay your salary. I'll use you how I want when I want.
Right.
They do that here too, and we're not tax funded, so it doesn't matter where.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then, they get a bill and they're like, well, I pay taxes. Okay. Here's your bill. Now you got an ambulance bill and taxes. Like,
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Maybe when we told you the last 15 times to perhaps just get a primary care physician, could have listened.
Could have avoided all of this.
Ain't. But yeah. Let me ask you, man, do you have any advice for anybody new in the field coming in uh, to this crazy ride that we all are on?
Honestly, I mean, I worked with was with a newer employee yesterday, and I was like, just ask the questions. If there's something you don't know, which I expect you not to know everything, but she came from the centers program, so I mean, obviously they go through pretty rigorous clinical times and everything, and they're very involved with their education program. Um, the people that don't have the opportunity or not necessarily able to afford that opportunity, don't hesitate to ask the questions. When you walk in, day one, don't walk in like I've been doing this for 35 years and, some busy service. No, you walk in with a mindset of, I'm here to learn and I can better myself to better provide for somebody later because I still ask questions to this day.
Absolutely.
The way I see it is if I don't ask questions, I'm in this for the wrong reasons. And I would rather ask 300 times, 300 different questions than be able to sit there and go, yeah, I've seen this before. This is how this plays out. Because how many times we've been on an incident where it's playing out the same as 5 incidents ago, but in the end, it was like, how'd we get from A to here, and whatever. So
Yeah.
to me, I'd rather tell somebody ask the questions, pay attention. Don't necessarily find the senior most person because as much as I hate saying it, the senior most person is usually the saltiest person is going to give you an answer that you don't want to hear. Ask the people that are there, the people that they're talking, be a part of the conversation, ask the questions in the conversation. Because 9 times out of 10, when we're sitting around, what are we talking about? Either the food or we're talking about, what we're doing, how this call went last shift. What do you think about this? We're talking about work. So why not take full advantage of it when we can? And that to me is I think the best advice you could tell somebody is just listen to the conversation and ask questions. I mean, people are all about, especially where I'm at now, everybody's all about, hey, how can we help you? How can we
Yeah.
better you? How can we get you to be not necessarily at our level because a lot of us there seem to be pretty experienced, but how can we get you to that next hurdle?
Sure. Yeah. Well, and so one thing that I've noticed is that regardless of the level of experience you have coming in, every service does something just a little different, right? It may work for them and it didn't work for the last place that you were at. But yeah, I mean I definitely agree coming in with that student mentality, like I'm gonna learn how they do it and you know I definitely like I'm the kind of person that tries to find the better way of doing things, but I think in order to do that, you have to come in to a new organization and learn the way they're doing it and why they're doing it that way before you can even attempt to try to optimize that.
Right.
So I mean, definitely staying in that student mentality is, I think, some great advice because and on the other hand, like the day that you stop learning and stop trying to learn, you're already behind. All right, medicine changes fast. There's always different techniques, different medications, different procedures that we're doing. Even if you look at the stuff you were doing in '08 to now is nuts. Like you were on the probably on the tail end of no use of glucometers, and pulse oxes were optional as an EMT. Like it's like, oh, you have diabetes? Here, have some sugar in a tube. Maybe it'll fix what's wrong with you. Maybe it won't. We don't know. We're not
Right.
check your sugar.
Right. Yeah, that like it was baffling to me. It was like, oh, you can give them oral glucose, but you can't see if they truly needed it.
Correct.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
But
this is
don't
dumb.
be wrong either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be wrong. Like I couldn't believe some of the stuff. And you talking about being the differences from '08 to now.
Yeah.
I actually, working an ambulance and chair, I was there during the blood rollout. when we were putting blood on ambulances and doing things like that. And I was actually privileged enough to be in the station that had the blood truck.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool because I mean, it wasn't just like oh, it's only for ambulance and it's for everybody.
Yeah.
If Southbridge calls and says, "Hey, we have a person pinned under a tree, we could use the blood product," that truck's going to show up, or the supervisor. There's two vehicles that carry it.
Yeah.
There's their supervisor Tahoe, and then there's an ambulance. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we have this ability to go anywhere with it. And going through watching the training process for it, I was like, we're not doing surgery here, but like this is pretty intense. And it was, I mean, they really hammered home. Dr. Macesso came in and did a lot of the blood product training and spearheaded the training class with that, and a couple of supervisors. And it was just like, wow, this is something really cool. And fortunately enough, I was lucky in most of my shifts we didn't have to worry about it. But we did actually go to Greene County one of the Sundays I was working to actually give blood product to a patient that truly needed it. I mean, you walk into that patient, you're like, oh, you need this. Like you hold up a sheet of paper next to them, and it kind of
Yeah.
like blends in with them. You're like, this probably is going to benefit you a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it was cool to see that. And then the big one was nitrous. When nitrous was getting rolled out, it was like,
Yeah.
wait, you can what? Like, what's this stuff that you're giving people? And it was like, oh, AEMT level could do that. You can't. And now it's being talked about that they're
Yeah.
actually going to talk about maybe letting EMT start doing it. It's like finally we can actually maybe help somebody
Yeah.
who, for lack of better terms, you're running a BLS truck where you're just literally looking at somebody driving and pain on your stretcher. You're like, here's a little bit of nitrous. Why don't you
Yeah.
suck on this and see how you feel in about 10 minutes?
Well, I can tell you, nitrous is a good start to the pain control. Like, I've worked at places that we've had nitrous, and I would give you that while we get IV access to give you something else. But it takes the edge off. It's not going to completely. Nothing is going to make you completely pain free, but it is very useful and very helpful. Especially those that need the pain control. And the best part is you can't overdose on it because it's self-administered. If you can't continuously get it, and it can't,
Right.
so you're good.
Yeah. The few experiences I've had seeing it given in the field, it was like, wow. Like you get to the partner's like, oh, we're good to go. I got my IV established, and I was working on an AMT truck that day, and it was like, oh, we're good to go. And start driving to the hospital, real cautious because her ankle looked like a pretzel, and I'm like,
Right?
okay, whatever. I get to the hospital, and she's like giggling, getting out of the truck. I'm like, ma'am, you were just screaming 25 minutes ago, and
Yeah.
we're giggles. All right, we can deal with this. It makes it easier. But she was on another level of like my ankle's there or whatever. It's there, but eh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's they're doing some awesome stuff. They're kind of rolling out new protocols, new tools in the tool chest for the different levels, which is good. I like seeing EMS progress. But I'm excited for the direction it's going in. Um, I'd like to. I'm not patient. I'd like to speed that up, though.
you and me both. You and me both.
Hey,
We
man.
talk about it every day.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd love to speed it up, but yeah. So, well, hey, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for the consult, man. I've had some fun getting to learn about some stuff that truly unique. The hazmat stuff. Not a lot of people know much about that. That's pretty cool. And everything. So, but thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you guys that are watching, listening. Thank you guys for your support on this endeavor. For those of you interested in being on the show, please don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for the consult at gmail.com.